Yes. Give in to the hate. Give in to the hate. Oh my God. I love it here. I love it here. I would never go. I'm not effing leaving.
I like how you reset the count.
Well, yeah.
All right, what is happening, everybody? It is time for MLB Live Before Lock. And after this, there's going to be a little bit of break in the action. Then NBA Live Before Lock with myself and Josh. Followed by that, we're going to be hanging out on playback. We're going to watch the game. Game one of the NBA Finals is going to be happening over on playback. So Josh and I'll be sweating it out after we talk about some of our lineups for the day. If you guys could do us a favor as you're watching this show, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored by Underdog today. And if you guys are signing up at Underdog, using the link that we have below in the YouTube description box, you're going to get access to a free square. Over under 0.5 points for Jason Tatum. This is the easiest over you're going to have of the entire day. Go take Jason Tatum, more than 0.5 points. Just needs a single point today, and you're going to be cashing that. So sign up using the link that we have below for Underdog. Game one of the NBA Finals. It is happening tonight. But before we get there, we've got to talk about some baseball. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready for the NBA Finals. Looking forward to hanging out on playback at some point. I don't know if I'll jump in at the beginning or at the end of that game, but it's NBA Finals. And despite my Timberwolves absolutely annihilating themselves, looking forward to the Millie Maker, looking forward to this evening. It's going to be awesome.
Before we get there, like I said, we've got some baseball to talk about, and YouTube's making this a big pain in the ass for me to log into the YouTube chat so that I could post in there and answer some of your guys' questions. This is a big issue. 2 people in there. Now it's working. All right. I had to reset my browser here. Wouldn't let me come in. The people I need to say, hey guys, in the YouTube channel. It's very important.
Hey,
you guys have questions for us on YouTube, throw them in there. If you're in our Discord channel, me so we could answer any questions you have about the baseball slate. Did you play the early slate by chance, Eric?
I played one lineup in like all of the single entry stuff. It is not going to cash. Let's see. Am I cashing it right now? Absolutely not. Brian Woo's pitching great. He was the no doubter, I'm playing him guy. But nothing from Santander, nothing from, well, what, a walk from Hayes and a run. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Nothing from Schneider in that game, nothing from Naylor. Yeah, I basically hit the stone cold worst 5-2-1 you could run into despite having J Ram.
All right. All right. I've got I think ideally I just want nothing else. I'm not like killing it or anything, but I am tripling my money for the early slate. So I just don't want anything else to happen the rest of the game. And then I'll feel pretty good about that heading into this night slate here, where we've got some teams with really, really high odds to be the top scoring teams on the slate in our top stacks tool. If you go over to our top pitchers tool, it looks like we've got some potentially fairly obvious pitching options, Eric. So let's talk about the 2 spend up options on the slate, because this is where the ownership is all going towards. Tanner Houck projected for 37% ownership. He's been terrific this year. He's pitching against the Chicago White Sox. Then Sonny Gray is at home against the Colorado Rockies. So in previous slates where the Rockies have looked viable, it's because they've been at Coors Field. Not the case anymore. They're going to be on the road playing in St. Louis against Sonny Gray. He's projected for 45% ownership. So these are the only 2 pitchers that are projected for north of 30% ownership. They're the 2 most expensive pitchers on the slate. Eric, do you prefer Houck, Gray, both, or neither?
Both, but more Gray, and the field does as well, and I don't really care. Colorado, whenever you see them leave Coors Field right off the get-go, it's something that I routinely kind of focus in on, where the ball definitely breaks more once you get away from Coors Field, and pitching at altitude, you don't see the breaking stuff as much, and now it'll be more pronounced. We get Sonny Gray on the mound, somebody that back with my Twins, I definitely miss. Those were good days for sure, but he is going to be my priority for today. First bet I made yesterday was trying to target this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad Colorado team on the road out of Coors Field. Can't hit righty, strike out an eternal amount against them, and I don't really know what else needs to be said. Get by Ryan McMahon, and life is pretty easy if you're Sonny Gray today.
I don't see how I get away from him. And the real only argument you can make against him is he's going to be really popular, which I hear, but he still shows up in just about everything for me. I mean, 45% Sonny Gray. I actually might just end up playing him in all my lineups today. Right?
I have 100% right now.
I don't hate it. And by the way, I think Tanner Houck looks great as well, but here's why I prefer Sonny Gray to Tanner Houck. Sonny Gray is $300 cheaper. slightly more popular. He's also pitching at home, whereas Tanner Houck is on the road. And for as bad as the White Sox offense has been, I do think pitching at home against the Colorado Rockies is a much better situation than being on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Chicago is a more hitter-friendly ballpark than St. Louis is. And going forward, I also think that Colorado is going to be a worse offense than the Chicago White Sox. So nothing to besmirch Tanner Houck, who I think is pretty clearly the second best pitching option on the slate. Just prefer Sonny Gray. For cash games, Gray and Houck, correct?
Yep. There's no other option. If you don't play those two in cash, I don't know what you're doing. In tournaments, I am going to be a little bit lighter on Houck from 37%. I currently have 28%. And that's just because Hunter Green exists. And I have a Hunter Green problem in my life. Now, it hasn't been a problem this year, but over the course of 2 years, I'm still trying to get my money back from certain games where he just gets completely shelled at low ownership because the strikeout stuff is there. It always will be. He throws it with crazy heat. He's a Southern California kid who is always it. 2.88 expected ERA so far this season, 298 xWOBA. He's my second highest owned pitcher that I have on this slate, but Tanner Houck is still a phenomenal option. There's no doubt he has the easier matchup of the two, pitching on the road against this terrible White Sox team that is dead last in baseball and WRC plus against right-handed pitching, 77. That's just hilarious to look at. Not that Cincinnati is, some stalwart themselves here. We'll talk about on the other side of that one with the Cubbies, because I do think there's a case to be getting into some Javier Assad today, but I am pretty okay with whatever you get to of Houck or Green as well.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the other pitchers on the slate. And this might end up being a little bit shorter of a show than normal just because the pitching, my pitching ownership is so condensed that I don't know that we're going to have all that long of a pitcher talk here. And I'm not going to make you guys sit around for an extra 15 minutes. We've already covered everything, but we'll see where this ends up going. But the other pay up options that we have on the slate, let's talk about all the guys in the 8K range and then also Ronaldo Lopez, who's the one other pitcher in the 9K range. Lopez, 9% owned. You got Walker Buehler, 13%. Pablo Lopez is picking up ownership at 23% ownership. Hunter Green is 26% owned. Stroman's in here, 13% ownership. What else are you liking in this price range?
A little bit of everything. I'm kind of scattered a little bit in this range. I'm always lower on Marcus Stroman. I don't think he's a very good fantasy pitcher. That's not surprising to anybody. He had been pretty decent to start off this season, still doing okay. But Walker Buehler at 8,700, 12.7% ownership. We're going to see Walker Buehler back to 100% full strength, top of his game. Walker Buehler sooner rather than later. He's had, a little bit of issues coming back, but only 5 starts in. I'm not going to go completely nuts jamming him today by any means. I strongly prefer jamming Sonny Gray, and that's going to eat up a lot of that, but Walker Buehler's the one guy that I'm getting to quite a bit. Pablo Lopez, I'm under the 23% on him, even though I did bet Minnesota first 5. You can get that at plus money still. I think that's just me saying, give me Pablo Lopez against Marcus Stroman. I understand one matchup is a lot easier than the other. The Yankees have been ridiculous to start off this season, but I'm happy to back Pablo Lopez there and have that be my major source of exposure. It's mainly Hunter Green. Again, 34% Hunter Green for me. Walker Buehler sitting there with 14%. Pablo Lopez, 8%. Marcus Stroman, 2%.
Just because of the strikeout upside, the answer to me here is Hunter Green, but at the same time, too, these guys are popular. They're not quite as popular as Tanner Houck or Sonny Gray are, but there isn't a big enough gap in the ownership for me to say, like, boy, I want to shave some of my Sonny Gray or Tanner Houck off to go to, like, a 23% on Pablo Lopez on the road in New York against the Yankees, or Hunter Green, 26% owned against the Cubs. These are viable pitchers, but I don't like them quite as much as what their ownership is. If I'm going to pick one guy in this price range, like I said, it's Hunter Green just because of the strikeout upside. He's got electric stuff. There are days where he's completely unhittable, but I'm still underweight to the field on him. And then for some of these other options, like Ronaldo Lopez, I'm expecting aggression from him going forward. Marcus Stroman picking up ownership against the Twins, not enough strikeout upside for me. So if I'm ranking these pitchers, I guess I'll go Hunter Green 1, Walker Buehler 2, Pablo Lopez 3, with the caveat being I don't like any of them as much as the field does.
Yeah, I like Hunter Green more than the field does. That's the only guy. Again, the Cubbies matchup, they have power, but 24.3% K rate against righties. I'm going to be firing up Hunter Green for sure. But I'm with you where I'm not there with the field on any other guy in the range. Virtually no Stroman. That's going to be fun. But I think the next tier is kind of where it gets fun. I think it's just if you're going to be playing up for some of the stacks that are really appealing. Again, I like the Yankees even against Pablo Lopez. I just basically play the Yankees every single day at this point. But sub 8K, you kind of need it for some of those outfield options.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees certainly make sense to be getting to in pretty much any scenario. We'll talk about them in a little bit when we're talking about some of the stacks. But yeah, 5% ownership going to the Yankees. Here's a scenario where I would potentially like Pablo Lopez more. If the Yankees were actually popular today, we'd be getting some sort of leverage off them. But despite how ridiculous Aaron Judge and the Yankees offense has been as of late, they're still 5% owned, which on a slate of this size, they are here are the only offenses that are less popular than the Yankees. This is crazy. The Rockies, the White Sox, the Nationals, the Pirates. And keep in mind, the Pirates are going up against Walker Buehler. The Nationals are going up against Ronaldo Lopez. Those are the only teams less popular than the Yankees against Pablo Lopez, who, yeah, he's one of the better pitchers in the American League, but not to the point where people should just be like aborting and not playing the Yankees today. So anyway, I don't see enough leverage on Pablo Lopez for me to really be able to make a strong case for him. I'm with you. Hunter Green is the best looking pitcher in this price range. Anything else you want to add about these pitchers?
Yeah, he's the cheapest too. That's the other part of it. It's like, not only am I getting what I believe to be the most upside, but he's also cheaper than everybody there. Pablo Lopez, happy to have the first 5 ticket there. Had a little bit of CLV on that one, but it's hard to look at Marcus Stroman or what we've seen from Walker Buehler so far, getting hit up by the Rockies at home, getting hit up by Cincinnati at home, getting hit up by Miami at home. Those are interesting things. I guess Cincinnati pitched fantastic. My apologies to him and his family, but Colorado, Miami definitely got lit up, and not get exceeding like 95 pitches anytime soon. Dave Roberts notorious for just being very, very careful with these guys. He's topped at 92 pitches, so at least we've seen him up to the low 90s. He's definitely still in play against Pittsburgh, but 24.7% K rate, third worst WRC plus against right-handed pitching. There's going to be a time that I would be playing a ton of Walker Buehler at this ownership on a smaller slate, and this just isn't that spot.
Let's look at the cheap pitching options. There is only one pitcher here that's picking up double-digit ownership. That's Cal Quantrill at 12%, and everybody else is basically unowned in this pricing range. Einstein asked about Cal Quantrill. He wanted to know, is there anybody we like as a pivot off of Quantrill? I don't find the 12% ownership to be restrictive. What I do find to be restrictive is that Quantrill and all these other pitchers suck. That's the main reason that I don't really want to be getting to these guys. I'd rather just spend up at pitching today, most notably to Tanner Houck, Sonny Gray. But Eric, what do you make of Cal Quantrill at 12% ownership? Is he your favorite cheap pitching option? Is there somebody else you like, or is it just a price range we should be avoiding?
I do like Javier Assad at this kind of ownership. The main reason is the splits against lefties this season. 25.5% K rate, and that's 580 pitches. He's seen a number of them. It definitely boosts up. Right now, you have 1, 2, 3 righties in that lineup for Cincinnati, 6 lefties or switch hitters in the case of Elly De La Cruz and Heimer Candelario. So that is 6 pretty decent spots for strikeout stuff for Javier Assad. It is a spot people are avoiding because of the concern of the ballpark, but that's got to be the main concern, because otherwise Cincinnati's a good matchup in terms of just trying to rack up some strikeouts. Not overly potent. 103 WRC plus is, pretty okay against, I had the wrong one up here. I had against the lefties there. I am just kind of firing up Javier Assad as an ownership deal. Second highest K rate there, 26.7% K rate against right-handed pitching. And that's purely because these lefties, they like to strike out. So we're talking about a pitcher who is striking out the guys who have the platoon advantage against him at a pretty high clip. He's at 23.2% for the season, but higher against those lefties. And then the lefties that are in here, Elly De La Cruz striking out ad nauseum, and Heimer Candelario right around 25%, batting second and third here. It's a sneaky good matchup.
So in general, I don't like these cheap pitchers, right? Like none of these guys are priorities. If I had to pick one of them, like I guess it's Cal Quantrill, just because he is $6,000. He's in a decent pitcher's park in St. Louis. And the Cardinals offense is not particularly potent against right-hand pitchers. So like if I had to pick one, it is him. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm not getting very much exposure to this price range anyway. So I'm not going to really go ahead and recommend anybody. But if you had to pick somebody, I'll say Cal Quantrill's the guy.
Yeah, Javier Assad for me. Mitchell Parker probably too. Atlanta. It's scary freaking matchup. It's more of just like potential K upside, but am I in love with it? Absolutely freaking not. That is a pretty terrifying spot for sure. But he's been around a 21.5% K rate guy. It's not special. It's not nifty, but I don't find myself having to punt as much here. I don't have any Bailey Falter. I'm not really playing Cal Quantrill, and Woodford is basically unplayable. Do you have any Randy Vasquez? Because this is the guy with the top, or he did earlier, the top 2 value percentage. Now Cal Quantrill has it, but is Randy Vasquez at 5,600 at the cellar in any of your lineups?
Not somebody that I'm going to be getting to today. So the answer is no. Randy Vasquez, 25 years old. He's been terrible so far this year. 5.74 ERA, 5.43 expected ERA, and he doesn't generate strikeouts. The only redeeming quality here is that he's very cheap. Everything else is just god awful. He doesn't generate strikeouts. He gives up hard contact. He gives up runs. Like I can't get behind him.
Yeah, it's cheap and it's baseball where you can maybe run into it. And for me, the Yankees are my single entry stack. I was toying around with some iterations where I maybe punted with him, but I just ended up going with Mr. Gray, Mr. Green, moving on with my life. It's a pretty clear cut thing for me to do in single entry.
The other issue that I have with looking at Randy Vasquez is it would be one thing if the Diamondbacks were popular, but they're 6.5% owned. So you're also not getting leverage there. Not to pile on, because like I'm kind of indifferent about Randy Vasquez in general, but I just kind of framed it as if he's like some garbage human who's just also awful at baseball. But I just don't see like a real good reason to get to him. Like you said, it's baseball, random shit happens. He's cheap. He could end up going like 6 innings, 3 runs, and get a few strikeouts and just get some good BABIP that goes his way or whatever. But it's none of the reasons I would typically roster a pitcher in DFS. Does he show up for any of those? So just kind of a no-go for me there. But any final talking points you have about the cheap starting pitchers? If not, we'll check Discord for more questions and look at the FanDuel pitchers.
A lot easier for me to get different with hitters than it is with pitchers. There's no doubt that Sonny Gray, I will live and die by it today. I have no problem. It's clear cut. Clear cut is day kind of just to play a ton of him. And then just kind of flooding in other options for me, Hunter Green, the priority.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel pitchers. And then you know the deal, Jordan. You start to queue up those lineup generator lineups. So start to look at those after we look at the FanDuel pitchers. But on FanDuel, the thing that surprised me the most, Eric, how is Sonny Gray not more popular? And he already is the chalkiest pitcher on the slate, but he's 25% owned at 10,600. Tanner is 11,000, so $400 more expensive than Sonny Gray, and he's 17% owned. So there's not like a massive gap in their ownership. And then Pablo Lopez is 14% owned against the Yankees. I was thinking Sonny Gray would be like 35% owned or something on this slate.
Yeah, I was too, but that is not the case. So just do that. Just do that.
Yeah, I can't really make a strong case for playing anybody outside of Sonny Gray. He's the cash game play over on FanDuel as well. I guess if I'm going cheap, Walker Buehler's sub 10% owned at $8,300 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And going forward, I know you had said before you're expecting a bounce back from Walker Buehler at some point this year. So yeah, I think going forward, he's certainly likely to be more expensive than less expensive at the $8,300 price point. So if I had to go cheap, he's the guy that stands out the most to me, and there isn't that much ownership going to him.
Nope, there's not. And I that's kind of the main dude that I would be pointing out, highlighting for FanDuel purposes. Hunter Green is sub 10%. I think at 9,900, that's an all right spot there. But no Reynaldo Lopez. Don't really think you need to entertain going cheap. Javier Assad, 8,500. I don't completely hate, but Walker Buehler is just double that ownership, 4.5% for Assad, 10% basically for Walker Buehler. Hard for me to not look at Buehler as the better option for 200 less.
Yeah, so Walker Buehler if I had to go cheap, but still the preference is Sonny Gray. If you guys are just playing one lineup on FanDuel, go with Sonny Gray. Maybe if you're playing 3+ lineups, go like 2 Sonny Gray and 1 Walker Buehler, something along those lines. Anything else that stands out to you about the FanDuel pitchers or the pricing?
Nope.
All right. Jordan, it's lineup generator time. Pull them up. Let's start with DraftKings. And could this be a slate, Eric, where we don't have an offense that's showing up in like all of our lineups? I don't think there's one that's going to be all that predominant. So let's go contrarian lineups. I'm just interested to see what shows up if we go contrarian on DK. Yeah, don't lock anybody in. And let's see.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I'm already seeing a good mix of teams, like more Red Sox than anything else, but other teams showing up as well.
Red Sox going to be pretty popular.
They will be, but not as popular as the other teams we've talked about in recent days. Like not where they're going to show up in nearly 100% of our lineups, but still you're seeing towards the top. What is it? Our 3, 4. Yeah. Like our 4 most popular hitters here are coming from the Red Sox. Look on the stack exposures really quick, Jordan. Yeah, it's a lot of Boston, but still not quite the same where it's just like only 5-man Boston stacks making up every single lineup. We are seeing Boston show up the most, followed by the Dodgers, the Braves, the Reds, the Cubs. There's 5 teams that we have double-digit exposure to as a stack here overall. And also, as far as the ownership goes tonight, let me refresh to make sure it's still accurate. It is somewhat spread out because we have 4 teams that are projected for 10+% ownership. The Red Sox, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the St. Louis Cardinals. So of those 4 teams, Eric, and then also at 9%, we've got the Braves and the Reds. So it's not like they're that far behind 10%. But of the really chalkiest teams, once again, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Red Sox, which is an offense you feel you can't go without of these 4? And which is the easiest one for you to say, I don't need them as much as the field?
Easiest one to get away from at the current ownership is going to be Boston, I would say, even though I'm going to play Boston. It's hard to say that it's the Cubs even amongst these popular ones purely because Hunter Green is pulling ownership. Bailey Falter, no ownership. Jake Woodford, rightfully no ownership. I think Boston, though, just from a pure popularity, and this is baseball, and they're 13.6%, and I am playing 150, but I'm also playing 20 lineups in the main contest, playing some single entry stuff here, hoping people are paying attention to NBA more. I am pretty confident in saying that the Red Sox are going to be extremely popular, where if you made me hit eject on somebody, it would probably be them.
It's going to be St. Louis for me. And it's mostly just because they're such a worse offense than the other teams here that are popular, right? I mean, we've got Boston, we've got the Cubs, we've got the Dodgers, we've got the Cardinals. The Cardinals also have insanely low top stack odds for us. Like this is one of the weirder chalk spots of the entire season, I think so far, at least relative to what's in our top stacks tool. And it's not to say that it's like a terrible spot for the Cardinals or anything like that. They just shouldn't be the 4th most popular offense on the slate against Cal Quantrill. You got a Cardinals team. We have a 5.3% chance to be the top scoring team on the slate relative to 10% ownership. They're the most negatively leveraged team by a mile in our top stacks tool. The only teams that have lower top stack odds than the Cardinals, it's the Twins against Stroman, the Pirates against Walker Buehler, the Nationals against Ronaldo Lopez, the White Sox against Tanner Houck, and the Rockies against Sonny Gray. So I'm most comfortable doing away with the St. Louis Cardinals. The team that I want to gravitate towards the most, probably the Dodgers.
Yep.
You're getting the Dodgers at 10% ownership. Really, really strong odds being the top scoring team on the slate, 14.1%. So slightly less than the Boston Red Sox. We're also getting a few less ownership percentage points on them as a team. So the team I like the most relative to ownership at the high end, Dodgers. One I like the least, it is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals there for a single entry lineup, Eric. And then we'll look at more of the lineup generator here in a second. Which team stands out the most to you to be getting to as a single entry stack?
I love the Yankees. I love getting to the outfield specifically. The things Judge and Soto are doing are just like stupid beyond stupid. And this is a slate where I don't think they're going to get a lot of attention against Pablo Lopez. And Pablo Lopez, he's not giving up crazy power by any means, but a 199 ISO against lefties, a 192 ISO against righties. I mean, he's still nearly 200 in terms of isolated power. And on DraftKings, where I'm really looking at targeting some home runs, how can you not start with Judge and Soto at low ownership and not feel good about your chances of success? I feel pretty good about them. Mixing in Austin Wells as a catcher option because he's cheaper, 3,200. You do have some more expensive guys like Rizzo, 4,600, Torres, 4,200. They kind of make it a little bit more difficult, but There are some cheap stacks and cheap pieces that I think you can rotate in. I saw Sean V bringing up Zach DeLoach. I thought the same thing, where he's absolutely a scrub and everything flat. He's still a flat 2K batter and potentially ends up being somebody that you could just punt with and move on with your life and get to those other pieces. But I'm probably not going to be firing that up in single entry. But I really like the Yankees. Anytime you can get them at low ownership on a small slate, that is appealing.
I'm going to go towards the Dodgers. Not that the Yankees are an invalid stack or anything like that, but like I said just a second ago, we've got the Dodgers with the second overall highest tap stack odds on the slate, but their ownership, it is the third highest. And also because the ownership is a little bit higher there, particularly on the ball. Like, I think the Red Sox are going to be so popular in single entry that no other team is going to have problematic ownership. So I will say to you guys, I don't think you should be playing the Red Sox in single entry because that's what everybody else is going to be doing. It is the team that's most likely to be the highest scoring team and the best points per dollar stack. It's just going to be too much ownership going to them in single entry. So I'm looking at another way to go. It's the Dodgers. And then another part of today's slate as well is, like, I'm not even finding it all that hard to build Dodger stacks with how can Sonny Gray as the starting pitchers.
Yep. It is pretty easy to do. The Yankees, it's interesting. It's more cost prohibitive, but that's why we're seeing the ownership where it is. I'm going back and forth here now because I'm looking at my top lineups and I'm kind of just forcing the Yankees because they've just been very, very good to me in spots like this where small slate, we know what that ceiling looks like for specifically that top 4, top 5 in that lineup. Volpe and company as well. I don't hate the idea of maybe potentially going Dodgers in single entry. I'm looking at a couple of them, but playing 100% Sonny Gray, playing a ton of Mookie as it is as a one-off, we'll see. I mean, I don't love playing as much Vargas as I was getting, Austin Barnes as I was getting, but they definitely are cheaper and allow for you to get to just about everything else.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to be going to the Dodgers in single entry. I'm about to be uploading my lineups here in a second, but go back to the player exposures, Jordan. And by the way, if you guys want to sign up for the MLB lineup generator, less than $15. You can sign up using the link that we have below in the description box. It's going to build lineups for you. We've got player projections and ownership projections in here, and it also comes with access to our Discord channel. Pitcher exposures, we're getting to Sonny Gray the most. No surprise there. What I am surprised to see here, though, Eric, is Pablo Lopez, the second most rostered starting pitcher making contrarian lineups. I personally don't like that all that much, or the Marcus Stroman exposure. But yeah, Hunter Green after that. Where's Tanner Houck? How far down is he?
He is further down. I mean, the Sims tool didn't really like Tanner Houck today, for what it's worth. There were times that I was like, am I doing something wrong? Do we not have his projection correct? And I kept looking at it and toying around with it. I don't mind Tanner Houck as much as what the Sims tool does here at the moment. Again, our data is as good as it gets, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I quote unquote know better, but the combination that I'm looking at for me, I don't like the idea of getting to as much of Pablo Lopez up top there. I don't like the idea of getting to as little Tanner Houck as what we are across the board.
Anything else you're noticing about these lineups that stands out to you?
Kike, Vargas, Barnes, their means to an end. That is getting to Teoscar Hernandez, who is my home run play today. He is a one-off. Him, Betts, and Ohtani, I have quite a bit of. I don't think it's that hard to get to them, but they're going with cheaper stacks. They're not going to be in those Yankees exposures. So I think, if you're playing a ton of 5-man of the Dodger, which it sounds like Greg is getting to more of than I am at the moment, you're playing some other scrubby dubs to make it work.
Let's go ahead and look at some FanDuel lineups now, and then we will look at some contrarian stacks we potentially like, and then we'll do our home run pick. Although Eric's kind of already spoiled his home run pick for the day. Teoscar Hernandez is who he's going with. So Malucar, careful, that's treading on Malucar's territory. He picked Teoscar Hernandez for like his first 30 home run picks of the year.
That's not fair. He's a baseball player. Would you prefer the word buzz?
I don't know. I think you're just stealing from Malucar. He's feeding you your home run picks. I know what's up. I know where you get your information from. Keep going, Malucar. You're doing good this year. Let's go contrarian lineups on FanDuel. Probably building your lineups for you too. Don't lock anybody in. Let's save some of these lineups, and then we'll look at what some of the results are looking like.
said, what's the deal with these lineups?
Yeah, no surprise. Sonny Gray showing up in half our lineups. I like that we're getting way overweight to Sonny Gray here over on FanDuel. Malakar also saying that he called Malloy yesterday. So there we go. He homered. We've got Sonny Gray as our most rostered starting pitcher. Scroll down, Jordan. There's some Pablo Lopez here as well. Boom, we built contrarian lineups. Our data seems to like Pablo Lopez. There's Tanner Houck, and that's pretty much all of our pitcher exposure. Tanner Houck, Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray. Pretty simple over on FanDuel. As far as our hitters go, I'm seeing Duran at the top. Yeah, some Red Sox hitters. Yeah, Red Sox making up about half of our lineups. A third of them are the Reds. A third of them are the Dodgers. If you're building one lineup on FanDuel, Eric, which team would you be stacking for FanDuel?
I've routinely been playing one lineup over there just about every single time. Played 10 yesterday. Did not go well. But I am definitely looking at either the Cincinnati Reds or the one other one that I had, the Yankees. Yeah, so those are the two for me over on FanDuel.
Dodgers, it's going to be the same deal for me. Dodgers on FanDuel as well. We have them with nearly identical top stack odds to the Red Sox. The difference, though, the Red Sox project for 15.5% ownership. Dodgers project for 12.5%. So I like the Dodgers as a single entry team on both FanDuel and DraftKings. And then, yeah, that's the direction I would go. I guess if I have to make a secondary stack on FanDuel, I'll agree with you and go with the Yankees. Actually, I think this is a scenario you could go to Walker Buehler. Yankees Dodgers stacks. Expensive bats, save some money with Walker Buehler. I kind of like that as a build, Eric.
Kind of do too. I think that is what the kids would call useful Melody.
All right, so let's go back and start looking at other stacks on the slate. And the first thing I want to ask you when it comes to stacks for large field tournaments, are you willing or do you want to stack against Tanner Houck or Sonny Gray today?
No. Do you want to get a Tanner Houck? I mean, I have 0 Colorado bats, 0 Colorado stacks.
If I had to, so the answer in general for me is no. If I had to stack against one of them, if you guys are looking for leverage, I do prefer the White Sox offense to the Rockies offense, but it's not really saying all that much.
Yeah, I do have some Luis Robert. He's somebody that wasn't not there. We're going to see what Nicky Lopez is actually going to pull some. I do think the White Sox might end up sneaky popular. I hate to say that because, again, it's just kind of a feeling that I get. But when you play Dodgers, when you play Boston, even in some spots, if you're not going to just completely punt all the, the Valdez, the Dom Smith, things like that, there are a lot of White Sox that kind of slip through the cracks as 2 and 3 mans. Maybe not full 5 mans, people might not be, but yeah, the White Sox are a team that I think might end up being sneaky popular, if nothing else, just as one-off filler.
They project for 2% ownership as a team.
Yeah, as a stack, probably going to be pretty low, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't be completely shocked to see Nicky Lopez, this Deloach character, at flat 2K. I could see some artificial ownership showing up on him based on what I'm looking at.
Yeah, so you mean individual hitters might not be unowned? I guess it depends what you mean by popular.
I don't know. It feels, if you run the Sims unencumbered, there are some White Sox that are showing up near the top of the simulated ROI. There are a couple of them that might end up a little bit more popular. Maybe not Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert. So I guess Andrew Vaughn's still pretty cheap. I'm just looking at the Nicky Lopez, the Deloach, this other 9-hole hitter that I've never heard of in my life. Lennon Sosa has been pretty just easy filler in the last couple slates, and he's got second base, third base. We'll see. The stack as a 5-man, probably not going to be popular. That's probably a correct way of looking at it.
So what is the lowest owned stack that you think warrants real consideration today? Not one that's hey, I'll play them in 1 or 2 out of 150 lineups, but a team that you actually think should be getting, a meaningful amount of exposure, let's say that's 5% owned or less.
I would say Washington. I've got 6% Washington going up against Reynaldo Lopez. He's pitched really well this season. I think we both it sounds like you said the same thing, where he's due for some regression off of a 1.73 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, and things of that nature. The strikeout stuff has at times popped for him as well. 8 strikeouts last time out against Oakland, but that is Oakland. This is Washington, a team that I think has shown some improvement at the plate. Only a 21.6% K rate, 92 WRC plus. So they're avoiding the strikeouts, putting the ball in play. Only a 129 ISO, but individual hitters here going up against Lopez. I think you could do worse than this lineup with Abrams, who's been just awesome all year. Jesse Winker, Luis Garcia, Keibert Ruiz has been a historically better hitting catcher. Meneses has hit the ball hard, if nothing else. And then Gallo, you know what you're getting into. The guy's probably going to K twice, but maybe hits a moon ball for you. Washington, that's the highest stack I have out of any of these cheapies.
Let me look at some of my exposures here. And you had said Washington. I'm kind of surprised you didn't go with the Yankees. Yankees are 5% owned.
But you said out of the cheap ones, though. Didn't you say
I said
cheap?
Out of the low.
Oh, then it's the Yankees. I have 16% Yankees. That is like 3x. So yeah, Yankees are it for me.
Yeah, I've double-digit exposure to the Yankees, so that's the one for me. And it's a great match. I mean, it's not a great matchup, I meant to say. It's such a great offense that even they're going up against Pablo Lopez, like we talked about at the top of the show, you've got a Yankees team that's 5% owned on the slate today that has massive, massive upside. I guess the really only question with the Yankees is, they are fairly expensive, is what pitchers are you getting with those Yankee stacks? Because I do think they warrant more ownership than what they're getting.
Yeah, it's Javier Assad, it's Hunter Green. I can mix and match those guys pretty easily. And that's where, I think for me, that's where some of those White Sox, like the Nicky Lopez, God, I just keep saying this Deloach character. I think they were just popping a little bit more. I've kind of found ways around some of that. We've got some cheapies that exist on the board. I mean, David Peralta today, if you're looking to like really get weird with yourself, Trent Grisham in that stack at 2,200, somebody that I'm getting to quite a bit, but with Peralta batting 5th, I believe today for San Diego at 2,100, he is a popular one-off that's helping me make things work for the Yankees.
One other thing about Yankee stacks is I think it's a pretty good spot to roster Trent Grisham as part of a stack. Like, this is not somebody who sucks. Trent Grisham is, at his best, been a quality MLB player. Now, that hasn't shown to be the case so far with the Yankees. He hasn't gotten that much run with the team, but he's hitting in the 9-hole. He's nearly the min price over on DraftKings. You do get the benefit of a wraparound stack too, where if you are playing the top of the Yankees lineup with Trent Grisham, it'll be like, hey, Grisham, and then the top of the order is up afterwards. But I mean, getting Trent Grisham for $2,200, I think that's a way that we could also save some salary, make Yankee stacks more viable.
I had just brought him up. So yes, I'm 100% with you. He makes everything work.
Let's see what we have in Discord. If there are any other questions that have come through, not at the moment. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Eric, are there any other stacks that we've not yet talked about that are going to be important to your builds on this slate?
It's important to him. No. Lineup filler that I hope pops and I have the right one. Yes. Let's see. Just going through some of these individual ones. San Diego, God, is there a more frustrating baseball team on this planet? Slade Ciccone, I think we both agree, sucks. Yes, Slade Ciccone.
Let me see what my exposures are there. Yeah, Padres, they're getting some ownership at 6.6%. We do have Manny Machado not going to be playing today, which is a little bit of a downgrade to them. Certainly think they're in play. I'm not getting like a ton of them or anything like that. I hesitate to bring them up for the millionth time in the last couple of weeks because it continues to go poorly.
Yep.
But the Atlanta Braves are in a pretty good matchup against Mitchell Parker, decent hitting conditions. We have them with the 3rd highest overall top stack odds on the slate. This team is, once again, not crazy popular. I'm overweight to the field on the Braves. I think that this is a team that, I mean, I would like to say that the field keeps sleeping on them, except it seems like they're rightfully sleeping on them, but I'm overweight to Atlanta again.
Yep, they absolutely own our souls, but here we are. Keep clicking on them, and I shall do so as well. And one day we'll be right. Welcome to MLB DFS. If you just keep doing the same thing, eventually 1 out of 100 slates, the Braves will get there. But yeah, the Nick Pivetta thing was wild. He was my second highest owned pitcher. It was my second highest owned stack against Pivetta. One side won. One side had one hit, so that was enjoyable.
Yeah, let me see. Who are the hitters I have the most exposure to from Atlanta? Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy is actually my most rostered catcher today, so I like Sean Murphy. He's batting 6th today, and he's not all that expensive. Sean Murphy is somebody who I definitely think should be fine going forward. And he's also hit the ball well in the last couple of games.
Wells for
who
me,
else?
The guy, but yeah.
Yeah, it's really the primary play for me from Atlanta is Sean Murphy.
Yep, agreed.
Anything else you want to talk about at offense? If not, it looks like we don't have any other questions. We could do our home run picks.
Cubbies, they are definitely a team. It's Great American Small Park. We just saw the wind blowing out forever, and I'd say they did okay, but we were expecting absolute smashes in a couple of those spots. We had some pinch hitting issues. Patrick Wisdom goes and instead of Mr. Bush. A whole couple of things the last couple of days. They continued to do decent enough there. Good outings by Hap, good outings by a couple of the guys, but I think against Hunter Green, as much as I love my boy, there is always, like, in the back of my head an issue with the power where you could potentially see a team like this go into Great American Small Park and be very useful. So that's probably the one stack we didn't talk about. There's a lot of places where, like, Swanson and Amaya and those guys are really popular and listed as really popular. If they end up being the lineup filler, I don't necessarily want that, but I definitely want some 5-mans against a popular green.
Shout out to Jason from the Stochastic team, who's always around in the YouTube chat. He works on our data team. He helps with the data and projections on the site. He came in 3rd place in the $15 for the early slate, which he followed up and said that he spent the last 25 minutes trying to build his FanDuel lineups with DraftKings projections. So, hey, listen, you win, you have some winners, and then other times you do something a little boneheaded. But shout out to Jason for coming through and with the nice hit for the early MLB slate. Home run pick for myself. Boy, which way do I want to go? You know what? Just because I already talked about, I'm Sean Murphy. I'm picking Sean Murphy to hit a home run today, Eric.
Okay. Sean Murphy, I like. There was a part of me that wanted to just pick out a lefty against Marcus Stroman. 206 expected ISO, 250 actual ISO against them. We have Larnach and Kirilloff at the top of that lineup. 260 expected ISO and 216. I ended up betting both of them as homers. I think you should too. From a DFS perspective, don't hate coming along for the ride. And Royce Lewis, he's hit a home run in every game he's played this season, so don't exactly hate that either. Although, 5 plate attempts against righties? Good stuff.
See what we have from the chat now. And the first home run pick, it is, where is it? William Westry's got Cody Bellinger. We've got Sotex going with Seiya Suzuki. Michael Roundtree's got Andy Pages. We've got, nope, not a home run. Oh, here we go. Doug Dobbs is going with Spencer Steer. There we go. Junior Whopper's going with Teoscar Hernandez. Casey Leatherwood. Casey's got Fernando Tatis and Royce Lewis. Thomas Rensberger is going with Cody Bellinger for today. Jordan, I've noticed that your home run pick is missing from the chat. I'll do Jordan's home run pick for him. He's going with Seiya Suzuki and Shohei Ohtani today. Other picks from the chat. Kyle Gentry is going with Prove Me Wrong. Go throw your home run pick into the chat. We got
Malakar.
Kyle Gentry going with Nolan Gorman. We've got Junior Whopper says Royce Lewis not in the lineup today. He still pinch hits and ends up hitting a home run today.
That's probably going to be the case of what it is. But yeah, Larnach and Kirilloff, I was just basically listing off the top of the power chart that I had for Minnesota. I was aware that he was not in the lineup. I just was listing it off in my head. But also, it makes it easier because everybody is freaking cheap on Minnesota, and I definitely just want to play the lefties.
By the way, apologies to Jordan because he's been a little bit cheeky over there because what Jordan ended up going with instead was Ha-Sung Kim. So he went off the reservation with a pick differently than one of the ones.
You can't say that either, Greg.
In his mouth. What was that, Eric?
Don't say off the reservation. You can't say that either.
That's a different thing. It's a different thing. I'll think of other puns to make though. But yes, we got Ha-Sung Kim from Jordan Klein here. And then we've got Malukar's going with Juan Soto. And that is going to do it for us today. If you've not done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys are playing best ball this year, check out the Stochastic Best Ball package. It is 100% free. All you have to do, make a free account over on our site, and you can access all of our best ball projections. Drafters, Underdog, and DraftKings. We got projections and player projections for all of them. So rankings, projections, you could download the CSV and upload it directly to those sites so that you could then have our pre-draft rankings as your pre-draft rankings on the site. And like I said, totally free. So go check it out if you guys are doing best ball. Thank you very much for watching. Coming up in an hour and a half, Josh and I are going to be doing NBA Live before lock, and they'll be doing the post-lock show on playback. So see you guys then. Good luck tonight.